Are you totally different when it comes to sex and copulation? Have you judged yourself out of receiving pleasure? Have you judged yourself into receiving pleasure in certain ways and excluded other ways? Would you like to know more about what else is possible with bodies? Would you like to create confidence in the bedroom and beyond? How has your sex life or lack of it affected other areas of your life? Everyone has the potency to be a sexual superhero. Get ready to listen, sense, and play with the sexualness that is you. Now, here's the host of The Pleasure Zone, pleasure diva and body whisperer, Milica Jelenic.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to The Pleasure Zone, where pleasure can exist. But pleasure can exist in more places than on this show, guys, for real. Like, you don't have to wait till Monday nights at 8 p.m. when I go live for you to bust open the Pleasure Zone, because that Pleasure Zone is with you all the time. It's part of your body, especially, it's part of your body when you're feeling good, for sure. And this particular episode has been brought to you by the cold that I had last week, or whatever that thing was that took me down and out. Not in the sexy way, but according to my husband, slightly sexy. It's hard to say. So today's topic is going to be called Breathing into Orgasm. And yes, it's completely and totally possible. There's different variations of breathing into orgasm for sure. And there's a lot of different components to this, so we're going to be talking about different components to the breathing into orgasm. Some people refer to it as the female orgasm, but men can do this too, absolutely and totally. It's not just a secret for women. So what is this whole concept of breath, right? Like, without breath, we're not alive. And I'll tell you this much, like, after my experiences of, trying to sleep when, your nostrils are plugged and then your throat's slightly sore. Well, my throat started out sore where I could hardly talk last Tuesday. So I had all these things going on with my body, which were fascinating and illuminating. And, you're just like, I'm lying around and I'm hardly able to breathe. I'm like, oh, if I could just breathe, oh my God, it would be so lovely. And so it was like a strange temperature going on in my house last week. It was like kind of warm, kind of cool, kind of damp, kind of dry. It was like hard to tell. It was such a weird week. And my nostrils went in tune with that too. So they were going from dry to wet and just obnoxiously annoying. So I was having a very hard time breathing and just thought, oh my God, it would be so lovely just to breathe. How orgasmic is breathing, which is actually what invited this whole topic. And also knowing that we can change a lot of our different things like dopamine levels in our body. We can change all of these things through breathing. They actually have studied this scientifically. So we will look at that today, and we're going to actually go through a little exercise on how to do the breathing into orgasm as well. So there are some really simple ways out there, and I'll be sharing at least one with you. And I also invite you at any time to create ones that work for you as well. So in general, when you look at the energy of orgasm, or what people call orgasm, which for most people what they're actually talking about is climax, there tends to be a different breathing that occurs, right? So when you're looking at the bodies of somebody who's about to have an orgasm, sometimes they hold their breath, sometimes they expand their breath. It depends on the person and what they've studied or not studied, but the average Joe and the average Jane will usually just start to, the breath of so-called orgasm / climax will start to have an increased elevation of breathing, like and some people actually think that it sounds like drowning. Actually, it's what my daughter informed me when I was this is about 5 or 6 years ago. She thought I was drowning when I was with my husband having some fun in the bedroom, and she's like, "Mommy, are you okay? You sound like you're drowning." And Mike, to name him, yelled back and said, "Don't worry, sweetie, we're just swimming." And I'm like, oh my God. You tell her that were swimming, and then she got really confused. How come you guys are swimming without me? When did we get a swimming pool? Oh, poor kid. She was so lost and confused. And luckily he doesn't refer to this as swimming anymore because, oh my Lord, it could really get confusing. So, yes, it may sound like you're out of breath, like you've been swimming, possibly like you've been working out and you've got that pant going, because sometimes if you're having a lot of activity, you will have that breathing like you've been working out. And that breathing can be like short breaths. It can be sometimes where your body's trying to gain oxygen, right? So it's like just breathing to survive, right? And that level between survival and turn on, like there's like a fine line between having an orgasm and death. And there's a fine line between oxygen coming into your body and having your body be turned on with life, and then having oxygen come into your body from a release of energy that actually brings a climax to the other side. So bodies are pretty wise in that they generally don't let us die during orgasm. They will find a way to make your way through. And usually your body will find a way to breathe to either get you back to being present, or your body will find a way to breathe to bring you into even greater sensations and increased, heart rhythms and increase all of these different things like dopamine going on in the body. So pretty fun when you can allow you just start to observe all the different ways we breathe. So we start with that, right? We can look at even when we're first born and the breath, just hearing a baby breathe is like one of the biggest reliefs ever. When after you've given birth, all you want to hear is that baby cry, to know that it's breathing. So breathing itself is definitely something that we associate consciously and unconsciously with life. And we also can start to begin to associate it with pleasure and pain. Different kinds of breath will start to associate with pleasures and pains. And when you start to look at the ways that people breathe with pleasure, you might start to notice what are some different breathings that people have done, right? So, for example, let's look at a little kid who just gets like the present of a lifetime. And at first it's like, and they take a deep breath in, and it's almost like they like capture the entire moment through breath in their body, and they hold on. In access consciousness, that's referred to as a beyond. Even when something's great, you're like, and you've held your breath and you're holding on. So releasing breath is amazing. In order to have you remember to actually breathe in, if you just start to learn to breathe out, can be really helpful. Once you breathe out, your body has a natural inkling to want to breathe in. So if you feel like you're holding your breath, chances are you probably are. I look around at a lot of people who breathe really shallow, and they tend to hold their breath. And a lot of times when people are breathing really shallow and are holding their breath, they're not really fully experiencing presence with their body. And we will talk about some tools on how to get really present with your body that are really, really simple. So it's really kind of a fun thing to do. So definitely learning to breathe, to get present, and to just notice, am I breathing deeply? Where am I breathing to? Am I breathing to, the back of my throat? Am I breathing into my chest? Am I breathing into my abdomen? Am I breathing into my anus? Am I breathing all the way down into my feet? Am I breathing into the ground? Am I breathing all the molecules of the universe into me, through every molecule of my being? Now that's where the fun starts to come in. And sometimes it's a really strange one because it's an experience that's kind of far-fetched to most of us. It's like, well, how do you breathe through your skin? But you actually do. If you've ever noticed, if you put your arm underwater, we have all these little tiny if my brain was working today, that would be helpful, like tiny little holes in our body, and oxygen is coming in and out of all of us all the time. So, and they're energy receptacles on our whole body. There are information receptacles, and so when you go underwater, you just might start to notice that there is like oxygen, that your body is not just breathing through your lungs, but it can. You can start to learn how to actually like ingest air through your entire being. Yes, pores. Thank you, Keisha. Oh my Lord, my brain is like just coming back from the fog zone from last week. So yes, we have ways of breathing that maybe aren't as common. We know about breathing through our noses and our mouths, and that's great. And we're going to do some really, really simple breathing just to get you into the mode of becoming aware of your breath. And then we're going to take it even further. So becoming aware of your breath. So one of the things you can start to do is that there's something called alternate nostril breathing. And I don't know if you've ever tried this before. But there's a method called alternate nostril breathing where you literally you will close one nostril off. So there is a method to it, but we can keep it simple. So you just kind of press one nostril in and breathe through, obviously, the one that's open. And then on the breath out, you switch nostrils, and you breathe out through the nostril that you'd first had closed off. So let's start with, for example, put your finger on your left nostril and then breathe through your right nostril. So breath in. And then put your finger on your right nostril and breath out. And then breathe in through the left nostril. And then put your finger on your left nostril and breathe out of your right nostril. So do you get that? So play with that a little bit. That's called alternate nostril breathing, and that can start to clean some energy out. It's a really fun way to shift the energy to clear your mind as well, and it can start you to get become more aware of your breathing. So alternate nostril breathing can be a lot of fun as a method. You can also do like where you're breathing through both nostrils and breathing out of both nostrils. So you can breathe in for the count of like 4, and you can breathe out of your nostrils if you like through the count of 8. You can also do different breathing where you're breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. So you breathe in through your nose, just for an example, the count of 4. So breathing in, and then out with your mouth. So you'll notice that there's maybe some little different reactions that go on in your body. But what most things will occur when you are breathing in general is that your body will start to feel like a sense of relaxation. Now, how does relaxation go with an orgasm? It seems kind of backwards. I get that. I get that most of us see orgasm as something that's a build-up, and then an explosion. There's many ways to have an orgasm, so we're going to be playing with different ways to invite those energies into your body that don't necessarily mean that you're going to have like an aggressive push of energy coming out of your body. So the gentle breathing and learning to practice breathing. So learning to practice breathing out, learning to practice breathing in, doing different kinds of breathing, whether it's alternate nostril breathing, whether it's in through your nose, out through your nose, in through your nose, out through your mouth. These are as old as life, because at some point historically people started to become aware that there's something that's going on with breathing. And when you look at things like Tantra and different yogi teachings, a lot of them have derived from different breathing techniques. Even things like doing mantras in order to get in touch and to feel connected with a higher power. We do those through breathing techniques as well. So you can breathe in a word and you'll breathe out a word. And those can also start to shift your consciousness. They can start to shift your awareness, and they can start to help you for your body to feel energized and alive again. So conscious breathing is an amazing thing, and it's amazing what you can do with your breath when you are conscious breathing, and we are going to have some fun with that in this episode today. So I hope so far you're enjoying this and you've been practicing some of the little techniques I've been sharing with you. We're actually going to be heading to our very first commercial break, so play with some of those breathing techniques while we head off there. You are listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution? Taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation by tuning in to the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. You'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is The Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255. That's TALK. Or Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email at milicajelenic.com. Now back to the program.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pleasure Zone. We're going to be talking about breathing into orgasm tonight. And if you joined me earlier, you would have heard our little discussion on different kinds of breathing and the importance of breathing and the fact that without breath, we're not alive. Well, it's just about how it goes, kids. So if that's true, then how much fun can we have with breath itself and what breath can offer us? So one of the things I'd like to make clear, too, is that it's actually our brains that are having the reaction to orgasm. It's what's going on when we breathe in that occurs in the body that's having a chemical reaction to the brain that is actually what is creating the orgasm. So to kind of break it down with some science here, it's really that the brain responds during all things like orgasms. And what scientists have measured is that female orgasms have been measured in general. So, guys, you don't have to fight me on this. The female orgasms in general tend to last longer. So scientists have actually studied the brain imagery of women's brains to try and track different things. And what the scientists found was that the energy of orgasm had the most impact on our ability to literally change our brain, our thought processes, and any of our hardwired habits. So I'm a huge fan of using orgasm to change my life. I'm a huge fan of using orgasm as a type of magic, and I'm also a huge fan of using it to heal my body. And so last week when my body was going through all this stuff, you better believe I was inviting my body to have as many orgasms as possible, which is also contradictory to what a lot of different teachings say about that. They talk about you're wasting the healing energy, or you're supposed to contain it and reuse it. And I like to think that our sexual energy is our life force energy, and if we are infinite beings, then we have innumerable, you can't even count the supply of energy that we've actually got. It's just a matter of tapping it and using it. And it's like, tapping it is like you put a tap on it, like tapping trees. So I live in a forest, basically, and every March, if I went out there and I stuck a little tube in one of my maple trees at the right time and I tapped it, which is called tapping it, stuff would flow out of it. So when you're tapping something, you can just kind of put a little energy into it, and then you just kind of notice it, and then energy starts to flow out of it. So if you're wondering what the hell is tapping it, just kind of imagine that it's like tapping a tree. And you're like, oh, that's my sexual energy is like a tree. I'm going to go put a sap tap in there, stick that in, and let it flow out. Awesome. And sometimes it's just creating a little open space for it to actually come out of there. So have some fun with that for sure. And so this whole thing around the brain and the brain changing in general is called neurogenesis. And the brain itself does change during orgasm. They know that. They've measured that. They know that the brain releases huge amounts of dopamine and oxytocin. Oxytocin is released during a few things as well. Like when I was nursing my daughter, oxytocin was my superhero friend. So it's actually been measured and compared to the equivalent of like a shot of heroin. So for anybody who's, looking to get off drugs, maybe start taking up orgasm instead. I mean, there's an excellent transfer of energy. Just saying, it's possible. And these chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin, they actually transform our brains. And it's pretty amazing. Dopamine itself can manage things like motivation, power, will, pleasure, attention, concentration, and it is amazing at actually growing and supporting the growth of new neurons. So neurons are parts of the brain that are used to create thought patterns. So by stimulating dopamine release, you actually are creating brain pathways that support your ability to do things like focus, to reason, to be creative, to increase your pleasure, to increase your attention. And when you think about it, when you are, say, for example, masturbating and you're breathing and the dopamine is starting to jump into your body, you might start to notice that there is like a desire to have a focus, right? So whether it's focusing on the sensation of touch between your body and your genitals, or a toy in your genitals, or somebody else stimulating your genitals or other body parts, whether it's that kind of focus of the touch, or whether it's the focus of different sensations or different stimulation that's around. Some people like sight, so they'll use pornography as a focus. Some people will use watching their partner strip as a focus. There's so many ways. But the brain really does kind of like to hone in on something so that it has it's like okay, we got this, we've got a target, we've got this target called fantasy, and we're going to just bring it to that fantasy level, which is beautiful. And then there's a time in your life where also that focus can be stuff like you can actually get turned on by thinking about expansion of your business. You can get turned on and get orgasmic and actually increase your business with thinking about your business. You can have orgasms with that. I did a 21-day series twice so far, and I'll probably be doing another one coming up in August called Sexual Magicism, which is a 21-day practice of sexual magic, which is magicism is the practice of magic. And so it can be a heck of a lot of fun. And this is really, I'm just looking at some of the comments in my chat room here, and I'll share some of them with you guys later. So oxytocin will be next on our list of amazing chemicals that kick in during our brain changes with the breathing and with orgasm. So for the most part, oxytocin does show up with like things like sexual activity, with childbirth, with breastfeeding. So I breastfed till my daughter was almost 4, 3 weeks shy of 4, and it was honest my saving grace. It was one of the greatest contributions to my body and my sanity ever. Oxytocin is one of those things that is, they say, is the chemical that helps to create a sense of social bonding, a sense of generosity, a sense of caring, and also changes your brain and creates new neurons. So it's one of those really amazing gifts, I think, for the body. So for me, where can I get more oxytocin, right? Like, that's my question. Well, it's not just sex. You can get it through self-stimulation. There tends to be more of it when there's other people involved because it has to do with bonding. So if you are able to have that sense of bonding with yourself, it can get quite amazing too. So these are your things that are going on in your brain, which are pretty amazing when you really think about it. And then the question is, well, how do we breathe to reach orgasmic, euphoric states? Like, how do we do that? That sounds just outrageous, doesn't it? Like, nice, thanks for talking about all your lovely brain things. But I really want to give you guys the background of what's like occurring in your brain. When you're doing the breathing, these things will start to kick in. So it's very helpful to know that. To me, it's helpful to know that because I like having all the information I possibly can. I'm like an information junkie. And then I like to investigate more information and see what is true and what's the consistency across the board. And I never thought of myself as a researcher until a friend of mine who is a researcher by profession was like, "You're a researcher." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I don't like research." And he's like, "Yeah, you research sex all the time." I'm like, "Oh, right. I guess I am a researcher." How adorable. Maybe one day I'll go for my PhD in sexology or something. Who knows? That would be fun. I have to get my master's first then, don't I? So, thoughts out loud to you guys from me. So one of the things that we're looking at today is orgasm, which does not equate to sex, by the way. Sex and orgasm, completely separate. A lot of times people assume that, sex equals orgasm equals sex. But no, sorry. An orgasm does not equal climax. They're not the same thing. So what is climax? What is orgasm? I've done many, many shows on that, but climax is where that's when the explosion happens. Orgasm is the buildup of energy, which is what we're going to be playing with today, is the building of the energy and the building of the euphoria feelings and the building of the yum-yum and the wetness and the hardness and all the good stuff. It just gets your body like so stoked to be alive. That's what we're going to be doing today, bumping it up so that you can feel like you just want to like bump and grind like a pro. Good times, bumping it up. So yeah, I know that there's a lot of confusion out there around the difference between that. So if you're like, how do I breathe into climax? Well, there is. I know that you can because I know I've done it many times, and we will move into that. But I'd like to build you to the place where you can actually breathe into orgasm as well. So let's remember some of our breathing techniques, and let's remember that we have body parts too. So we're going to do a little quickie just before the next break, and this time I'd like you guys to breathe and be aware that you have genitals. We're going to do this at the same time. So you're going to breathe in, and then just notice, I've got genitals. Fascinating. It's very rare that we actually breathe and notice we have genitals at the same time. We'll often we'll breathe, and then it's just in our nose down maybe into our parts of our respiratory system. If we're lucky to breathe down to our diaphragm, we're really rocking it. But for the most part, we don't. And we certainly don't breathe and acknowledge we have genitals at the same time. That's just wild. So take a few breaths in, count to the count of 6 or 7. So breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, hi, I have genitals. Fantastic. Now, as you're doing that, you might notice that your genitals are like, whoa, hello, thanks for noticing me. Cool. And then you're going to breathe out and just keep noticing that you have genitals. Oh, my God, I still have genitals, even when I breathe out. Fantastic. Look at that. So breathing in, notice you have genitals. Breathing out, notice you have genitals. Just notice. That's all we're going to do for now. So that's a little fun thing you guys can play with. And we're going to be heading off to our second commercial break here on Inspired Choices Network. And you're listening to The Pleasure Zone, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution, taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation by tuning in to the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. You'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that when run assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bars session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator to schedule a private session or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
This is The Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255. That's TALK. Or Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email at milicajelenic.com. Now back to the program.
Hello, everyone. Sweet pleasure seekers. You came in, you're listening. Oh, maybe you did come. Fantastic. I'm so happy for you if you did. We're just going to keep going, though, because you know what? You might just feel like coming again. Because why not? Because you can do it more than once in a day, I think. So this one's pretty fun. I don't know if you guys were playing with this during commercial, but if you were, you might feel like your friendship with your genitals is starting to become a little more familiar, a little bit more sweet, a little bit more like giggly and playful and happy. And if you're not noticing that, that's okay too, because you might be noticing some other emotions that have been there for a while. As you're breathing in and you're noticing your genitals, you're actually inviting life and all of these other things that have actually created your life to become noticed, right? So this is really about noticing. And it's not about taking this to like the next level in a flash second. This is about breathing in, noticing you have genitals. Congratulations, you are alive and you have them. And how lucky are you that you do? And you might even have two kinds of genitals. You might have been born hermaphrodite. You might have male genitals and female genitals. How cool are you? You might have had you might be post-op. You might have been born with one kind of genitals, and now you have a different kind of genitals. So isn't it fun now, whatever genitals you have, whether you were born with them or if they've changed in your life or whatever, isn't it fun to become reacquainted with them? Because they're your friends. They're here to help you out. They're here to actually assist you with pleasure and receiving. It's so cool that they are here for that. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit to that breathing. So let's get back to that breathing again so that we can add more to it. So breathing in to 8, and then noticing, hi genitals, how are you? And this time when you're noticing, I'd like you to notice if you're doing anything with your genitals, are you tensing them? Are you relaxing them? Are certain parts of them more noticeable? Like, do you feel certain parts of them more than other parts of them? So, for example, for me right now, I'm just going to give you guys the deets. I'm menstrual right now, and all you guys wanted to know that. So when I'm breathing, and I'm breathing in, and I'm noticing my genitals, I'm noticing like all kinds of parts in there. I'm noticing the upper part near the cervix. I'm noticing different parts around like the right side. Like, I'm very, very aware of like what my genitals are talking about right now. And they're also like really excited to be part of this information to share with the world. So yay, it's all about sharing. And so just notice, and like, what do you notice? So breathing in, and then what do you notice? Oh, what parts do some parts feel more stressed or tension or more relaxed, or do some parts have heat or cool? What do you notice? What's different in different areas? And then breathe out. And that's a long time to hold your breath. So if you breathed out before that, that's great, because you're actually following your own body and you're not making me your guru, which is awesome. So breathe in, notice whatever you're noticing. Just notice it, and then breathe out. And then when you're breathing out, notice if it changes. So breathing in, there's a kind of energy that's going on there. When you breathe out, does it change? And it might. So I'd like you to just become really familiar with the nuances of your breath in conjunction with your genitals. And you just play with that a little bit. You can just keep playing with that while I talk, actually. So what we're doing is we're finding a way to activate what the yogis call the Mula Bandha. And the Mula Bandha is actually your perineum and your pelvic floor. And we're activating that. And I'm also inviting you to become familiar with everything that you've never noticed with your genitals. It's like becoming so friendly with them that you would know, you know exactly what they desire and what they require, and it becomes very intimate. So breathing and noticing is fantastic, because you become really, really present with them. So what is this thing, the Mula Bandha, this perineum, this pelvic floor thing? Well, a lot of you, I bet, in your life have experimented with this pelvic floor thing. Some people call it the Kegel Exercises. For this case, we're just going to refer to it as your pelvic floor muscle. And there are so many ways to play with this energy. So we're going to see if I have time to play with it in two different ways, at least. But the number one way that's the most common is to just have it where you feel like a sense of squeezing. So you might feel that your genitals are squeezing. You might feel like your pelvis is squeezing. You might feel like your bum is squeezing. Your buttocks are squeezing. And it's that sensation you get like when you have to go pee and you're not at the toilet right then. And so you're like holding, and then you get on the toilet and you relax. If you do have to go pee right now, maybe go pee before we do this next exercise, because if you're going to relax a lot, you might pee wherever you are, and I'm okay with that, but then you're just going to have cleanup to do while I finish off the show, and then you're going to miss it, and that's not fun. So go pee if you need to, and then we'll just continue this. So what is that Mula Bandha thing, right? So I'd like you to do it in two steps. So just notice that you have the perineum. What is the perineum? Excellent question. So for women, it is that space between your vaginal opening and your anus. And for guys, it's between your anus and the very edge of your testicles, because I'm not going to give you guys the technical terms, because I know most of you don't have that. You don't even know the technical terms. And we'll just go with those. There's that little space there, and that's your perineum. So what's your pelvic floor? Well, your pelvic floor is exactly what it sounds like. It's the base, the bottom of your pelvis. So what we're going to do is we're going to squeeze that. So just like you're stopping going pee, and then you're going to relax it. And you're going to squeeze it, and you're going to relax it. And you might only be able to squeeze it for like a teeny tiny second. That's okay. It's better than not. And if you don't even notice a squeeze, your best bet is to really try just to do that while you're like sitting on the toilet, and try and stop your pee midstream. That's one way to see if you've actually got that muscle moving and working. One of the beautiful things about playing with those muscles is that the more you do, as they actually start to release the juices for women. So if you are squeezing and relaxing your pelvic floor, it'll actually engage your vaginal muscles, and then it will start to juice up the vagina. So it's a beautiful thing. So let's just get that going. For guys, it will actually strengthen your penis, which is fabulous as well. So if you're looking for a rock hard, super strong penis, you can start to do these exercises as well. And there are other ways to strengthen those muscles as well. I've done entire shows dedicated to the strengthening of the vagina, and an entire show I think I did dedicated to the strengthening of the penis. I think I called it Crotch Fit. I believe I did it a few years ago, and then I might do another one again, just because I think there's a lot of value in getting your pelvic floor strengthened. So, and this is just a way to use breathing with that as well. So again, you're going to breathe in, noticing those areas, noticing your pelvic floor, noticing you have a perineum. And guess what? You have genitals. Fantastic. Awesome. And then you're going to breathe out. And this time we're going to add the little practice of that muscle squeeze, where it's kind of like that feeling of stopping the pee. So you're going to breathe in, and it might only be like 2 or 3 seconds, feeling that, and then releasing it, and then breathing it in, and then releasing it. Yeah, Kegels are a great invitation to like getting the juices and the vag going for sure. So, and it'll wake things up in ways you can't even imagine. So, remembering to breathe in and breathe out. And so we're going to actually start to get to the place where your breathing makes like sense to your body, that it would have your body have contractions, and it's like training your body, right? So it's training your body that with every breath in and out, that it can have contractions, and it can start to build this energy that's like an orgasmic energy. And that's the fun. It's like training your body. Like if you were a marathon runner, you would be out there training. So the same goes for the muscles of your genitals. If you want to be like a marathon runner with sex, or even just start to enjoy it again, you want to get those muscles going again. It's kind of like, we're kind of like doing the version of physiotherapy for your crotch. So actually, I do know that there is somebody in the U.S. that does some kind of physiotherapy for crotches, which I think is brilliant, and maybe one day I'll change my career and do that. Super fun. So now we've got those muscles going, right, which is great. Just remember, you're just going to keep breathing in, and then when you breathe in, you contract the pelvic floor, so squeeze it, feel for like a pulsation, and then fully relax, let go, and then you're just going to keep doing that. Because why? Because guess what? We can start to create amazing feel-good hormones, the dopamine, oxytocin, start to come into the body. Your sexual energy starts to get higher and higher. Like my body's already getting hot talking about it. And super fun rise of energy going on. And why else would we do it? Well, the thing is, if we know that these different chemicals are create neurogenesis and they're changing the brain, well, we could actually reprogram the brain with orgasm. And why would we do that? Well, your body, while it's in an orgasmic state, is actually in a fully receiving state. Orgasmic states are the states of like receiving information. They're the states of creation. They are like fully embodied creation energy. When you think about it, somebody had to have an orgasm for you to be created. And I did a show about that too. One of your parents had an orgasm, I called it. And it's really about the fact that orgasmic energy is creation energy. And if you feel like you're like, I'm really low on orgasmic energy, but you're painting 24/7, the chances are you're not really low on orgasmic energy. You've just been channeling it into things like paintings for quite a while. So kind of fun. And so yeah, not to try and knock thinking that maybe you don't have it. Maybe you're just utilizing it in a different way. Alrighty, so we've got about 10 minutes left. What the heck? Time, man. Time's flying by like cuckoo. So we're actually going to head off to our third and last commercial break. Here you're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution? Taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation by tuning in to the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. You'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that when run assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bars session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator to schedule a private session or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
This is The Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255. That's TALK. Or Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email at milicajelenic.com. Now back to the program.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pleasure Zone. So we've been talking about breathing into orgasm, and if you missed it right before break, we were talking about breathing in and then also squeezing your pelvic floor, squeezing all of those muscles, squeezing your genitals to have that sensation like you're stopping urination, and then fully relaxing out. So that some people refer to as Kegels, some people just refer to it as pelvic floor breathing. Doesn't really matter what you call it, and yogis call it activating the mula bandha. And so there's a lot of different things that you can call it. Doesn't really matter. It's really about connecting your breath to your genital response, and then as you do that, as you become very practiced in that, so that's something that practice daily and see how that goes for you. You don't have to do it 24 hours a day. Do like a few here and there where you remember it, where you notice it, where, you just could be watching a TV show and you're like, hey, now's a fun time. Let's practice that. And do whatever feels fun for you. Do whatever feels light and joyful for you. And then you might start to build it up. So you might do it once in the whole week. And that's cool. That's one more time than you've ever done it. That's awesome. And then you might have like 10 times a day, and then you might go like 30 times a day. And so your body will start to become very familiar with breathing and with the energy of your genitals moving. And to the point where then as you start to breathe, your genitals just start to move. It becomes a lot of fun for real. So I think you guys will have a lot of fun with this when you practice it. And then you'll start to notice that there are more nuances, like I was saying earlier. Like you'll start to notice nuances inside. For women, you'll notice them probably in your vagina, and men and clitoris, and you might even notice it on the vulva in general. You might notice it in your your different labia as well. Like you'll have different sensations going on. In men, you'll probably feel it either in your testicles or in your penis. It's really depends. You could even feel it in your glands possibly. So there's so much sensation that we are half the time not even aware of, that when we start to connect our breath to that, we can start to really feel it on a deeper, more interesting, intriguing level. And then as you breathe, your life force just activates your genitals as well. It gets reconnected. And then you're basically walking around all the time with your genitals being activated and aware and moving and having kind of this life of their own. There's an amazing woman named Saida Desolets who does a lot of classes on she has a lot of different techniques that she uses, and a lot of them are based on Tantra. And they are all about really connecting your body through different things like breathing and becoming very aware of your genitals and being very conscious of them. And so that's something to just like play with too. Like if that's something that you're kind of curious and you'd like more, I think she's an amazing resource to check into. Some of the techniques she uses are like sipping techniques with different things like jade eggs, also with penises and fingers and all kinds of stuff. It's just a way to actually have your vagina start to receive and get juicy and open and inviting. And it's a different energy than Kegels, and it's much more of like a breathing, and then it's like having your genitals breathing at the same time you're breathing, and they're just like inviting everything in. And why would we do that? Like, why would we want to do that? Well, if you are interested at all in creating your life in a completely different way, if you're interested in creating a life that's different than the one you have been creating, and you notice that your brain and your thoughts are totally contributors to kicking you in the head all the time, then this is an amazing, easy way that you can do for yourself through breathing, noticing, becoming connected to your body. And then as you are doing some of these techniques, you can also start to just, consciously, because you're going to become more aware, you start to consciously choose what energy you're going to focus on, right? So like I was saying, like quite often when I'm masturbating, I actually focus on my business, and I'll focus on people's health, and I'll focus on my own health. Like last week, getting myself out of a health rut, it was really helpful to do many things, but I do know that becoming familiar again with my body and utilizing my body's own resources and power sources to change that is huge and dynamic. So, whatever it is that you would like to add into your life, definitely utilize some of these breathing, squeezing techniques, that these breathing and changing the different chemicals in your body, the dopamine and the oxytocin in your body, using that breathing to change that mind to actually start to become more receptive, to start to choose and create the things you would like to have, can be so fun and so relaxing. And then, the more you do it, the more you become it. And then you just are walking around having that in your life all the time. So what are some things you guys can do now? If this is too much for you, if this is like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed, really I think just starting with becoming aware of your breath. Just notice that you even have breath. Notice breathing in, notice breathing out. The next step would be notice that you have breath, and then notice that you have genitals at the same time that you're breathing. So breathing in, breathing out. I have genitals. Fantastic. Then the next step, breathing in, breathing out. Notice you have genitals, and notice that you actually have muscles that you can contract and play with down there. Cool. And the next one would be that it becomes so familiar that your breath in becomes a squeeze sensation, like orgasmic release and relax, and then it just becomes so part of your life that as you breathe, you actually have that orgasmic energy flowing all the time. So thank you guys so much for listening tonight. I hope this contributed to all of you and your bodies. I hope you start to walk around and feel this all the time and start to enjoy things in your life that you weren't enjoying before. Until next week, stay tuned in and turned on.
Thank you for choosing to listen to The Pleasure Zone. Milica Jelenic will return next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.